Critical Role. Whether you're a fan of the show or not, everybody can agree that it has brought a lot of new life and new blood into Dungeons and Dragons. Since the show launched back in 2015, it has become pretty much a phenomenon. It has drawn tons of fans, tons of new players, and inspired a lot of artwork and games and books and all sorts of stuff for D&D. And people are fairly obsessed with it. Well, back in 2017, Critical Role launched the Tal'dorei campaign guide, and they did that right before the end of the show. Well, now in 2022, they have brought us an updated version of that book, Tal'dorei Reborn. So today we're going to take a look at the new Tal'dorei campaign setting book. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, I'm Joe and this is the DM Toolbox, your go-to place to get all the tools you need to enhance your D&D games. Now, before we get started today, as always, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, stay tuned for more great videos, great content, hopefully some giveaways coming in the near future, and also don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Toolbox_DM and on TikTok at DM Toolbox. So let's talk about Critical Role. Now, I am a fan of the show. I'm wearing the shirt right now. You might notice in the past I've had some of the Critical Role minis and other things on my shelf behind me. And it's just a show that I like. Now, I wouldn't claim to be some kind of super fan. There's people who know way more about the show than I do. I am about 100 episodes through campaign 1, which I mostly listen to on podcast. I didn't actually start watching the show until campaign 2, and I watched the first episode of campaign 2. I figured that was a good time to come into it. I made it through about 50, 60 episodes before I started kind of getting behind, and I just said, you know what, I'll catch up on it. And I went to starting to listen to and watch campaign 1. Campaign 3, I've been keeping up with it for the most part. I'm about 2 or 3 episodes back right now, but I'm working on catching up. So I'm a fan of the show. I like it. I'm not, a diehard critter, but I definitely consider myself a critter. So all that stuff said, while back, let's talk about Critical Role just briefly, a history of it. So for those of you who don't know, Critical Role is a streaming show on Twitch where they stream their D&D games. A lot of people do that these days, but it wasn't quite as popular back before that. They are, if you don't know who the people who do Critical Role, you might know their voices because a lot of them are voice actors that, you probably know their voices from a lot of video games and cartoons and things like that. So they were playing this home game. They were a group of friends playing a home game, and they started streaming on Twitch. And they didn't really have expectations of the show taking off, and it did. It became really popular, and it is entertaining. Like I said, I do enjoy watching it. I usually have trouble sitting through a lot of watching other people play D&D, but it's just entertaining. And the show started, I think it was around March of 2015, and campaign 1, as it's known now, which was a group of adventurers known as Vox Machina, that campaign concluded around October of 2017. Well, before it ended, Matt Mercer, the DM, started working on a campaign guide for Critical Role. That ended up launching on PDF in July 2017 and hardcover in August of 2017. And that's this book right here. And it's a good book. I enjoy it. I like it. I picked it up on Amazon at some point, and it's a cool book. Came with a fold-out map and lots of cool information in here. I love the artwork on the front. This is a group of Vox Machina battling a green dragon. So yeah, great book. But you can see it's not the biggest book, and there are parts of it that were done well, and other parts that probably could have been done a little better, a little rushed or whatnot. Plus, the campaign hadn't ended yet. He was writing this mid-campaign, so where was the story going to go? Even Matt didn't know at that time. So now, fast forward to 2022, and the new book Tal'dorei Reborn has come out. Now, this just came out like last week. The day it became available on the critroll.com website. I picked it up, and you can see here it is a much bigger book. Also, very cool art. I was actually really impressed with the art. It's very vibrant. It's just the colors really pop, and it's not just the cover art. The art on the inside is also very, very nice. It is a good looking book. It is a high quality book. It is really put together very, very well. So I'm enjoying the book so far. So I thought what we could do is just take a look through this book. I'm not really going to compare it to the other one. There are similarities, but obviously there's a lot of differences as well. This is a much more complete book. So if you own the original, I still would say it's very much worth buying the new one because it's added quite a bit to it. So let's take a look. So obviously, like I said, it's built very well. Very nice cover, very good binding, the sewn-in binding. They even have the ribbon bookmarks, which I always like. Let me see if I can flip open to that for you. So we do get our ribbon bookmarker. So that's a good touch. A lot of little area maps, a lot of excellent art in this book. And it's laid out very nice. So I would say if you don't play D&D and you're a fan of the show, good book to have. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here, a lot of lore and things like that, which I know the fans love. If you do play D&D and you're a fan of the show, it's a no-brainer. You want this. If you are not a fan of the show, but you are a D&D player, I think it's still a great book to have. Now, you may or may not want to play in this setting, but there's a lot of great ideas and things in here that you could definitely pull for your own game. And that's something that I think everybody really does with any book. I own most of the official Wizards of the Coast books. I haven't played through all those adventures, but a lot of times I grab a location or something, items, monsters, quests from those books and bring them into my own games because why not? That's good for that. And I feel like Matt Mercer is a very, very good storyteller, very creative individual, and a lot of his stuff in here is very useful. Now, Matt is not the only author of this book. It's also co-authored by Hannah Rose and James, I'm going to say his last name wrong, James Heck. I think that's how you say it. But Hannah and James both worked on the Wildmount book, which is basically the Campaign 2 campaign setting, which came out officially through Wizards of the Coast. Hannah also worked on Witchlight, on Candlekeep Mysteries, and she did some stuff with Matt Covell's series of Arcadia. So she is, well established in the industry. James also worked on Wildmount as well, and he worked on Waterdeep, Descent to Avernus. He wrote a couple of Exandria modules alongside Matt. They co-authored some. So both are, well-established authors. I think their touches definitely added a lot to the book. So overall, really, really cool. So I want to show you a couple things else that I liked about this book. One, a lot of books, right? The original Tal'dorei book, my Midgard campaign setting up here, a lot of other D&D books come with a fold-out map. And they're generally just kind of stuck in there, right? They might have that little kind of like hot glue kind of thing that holds them on that you can kind of peel off, but then you just kind of stick them in the book and they're loose. Well, they actually put a little folder leaf in here to hold your map. I thought that was a great touch. That was just a smart thing to do. Probably didn't cost a whole lot to do it. And I think it's a nice thing to have in there. And the map itself, let's open this sucker up for you guys, is a very well done map. Really like it a lot. It is kind of that, I don't know how to describe the style, but it's just a good map. It's a good map of Tal'dorei. You can see the coast of Wildmount off to the side here, but very well done map. I like it. So that is in the front, and it's got a little pocket for it. So pockets are good. A couple other things. Let's take a look. I marked a few pages in here that I thought were worth checking out. Now, obviously, we get a lot of lore and things like that in here. Actually, here Here's a cool, the cover art basically undisturbed. But let's take a look at just like our table of contents real quick, and we can kind of go over what's in the book. So chapter 1, Welcome to Tal'dorei. So Lands of Tal'dorei, what is this book? The Calendar, Time, and Cosmos, a history of Tal'dorei, myths of Exandria, and running a Tal'dorei campaign. So a lot of useful information in the first 20 pages or so of this book for a DM. Then we go into chapter 2, which is Allegiances of Tal'dorei. So we have like the gods. We've got factions and societies. Things like, if you're a fan of the show, we have the Ashari, which is what Keyleth was, one of the players in Campaign 1, played by Mercer Ray. Keyleth is a druid. The Ashari are a group of druids. So that's a cool one. We have the Chamber of Whitestone. That is another city where one of the players is from. So we've got a lot of, you'll recognize a lot of stuff from here if you watch Campaign 1. We have the Tal'dorei Gazetteer, which is chapter 3. So we get some more regional information and things like that about the places of Tal'dorei. And then chapter 4. Now here's a great chapter for anybody, even if you're not playing in the setting. We've got character options, which are always great. So we've got the races and cultures. Now, a lot of the races are just, they'll talk about what they are, but they basically are still just the player handbook versions. But others are unique subclasses and things like that, and we'll have some special stats for Tal'dorei. We also have Hemocraft, which is blood magic. So if you watched Campaign 2, for instance, one of them played a character named Molly Mock who used Hemocraft. And unfortunately, well, no spoilers, but there are some subclasses and classes that use blood magic. So here we've got subclasses. We have a barbarian, a bard, a couple cleric domains, a druid domain, a monk, druid circle, a monk, a paladin, a sorcerer, and a wizard. And the wizard is a blood magic wizard. So some cool stuff. And then there's also a gunslinger that you can get off the DM's Guild that Matt wrote and one of the characters in Campaign 1 used. And I'm trying to think of the other one, what it's called. It is I'll think of it later. I don't want to sit here and take up too much time. But next we have another very useful section. Oh, I'm sorry. We also have backgrounds, by the way. So there are some custom backgrounds. There are some new feats as well. So all good stuff for your players. The next section is another really good one. It's Game Master Toolkit. So I like that right there because, I'm the DM Toolbox. So I'm all about a toolkit. So we've got a section here on creating adventures, Tal'dorei treasures, magic items, tools of the Ashari, vestiges of divergence. These are really cool magic items, legendary magic items that some of the players had and are really tied to the world. Sure, you can grab them and use them in your own game, maybe figure out ways to tie them to your world, but it's a really cool tie-in to Tal'dorei. And then we got some optional campaign rules. Chapter 6 are allies and adversaries of Tal'dorei. So a lot of monsters and things like that, basically, monster stat blocks. So that's what's in the book. So I wanted to point out a few of my favorite sections. So let's take a look. So the first section I want to look at is Hemocraft. So this is like the blood magic. And by the way, the class I was trying to think of earlier that I couldn't remember was a blood hunter. So that's another free class you can download off of DM's Guild that Matt made. And a character named Molly Mock was one of those. Really cool class. They basically have to, take damage themselves to draw blood in order to do some of their abilities and things like that. So we talk a little about Hemocraft, and then it gets into our subclasses and things like that. So nice little section here. Next section I wanted to show you. Oh, and by the here, just so you can kind of see some of the other subclasses and the art and stuff like that in here. Another cool section that I wanted to kind of go over was, let's see here. So some of the races. Okay. One that I thought was worth calling out was the Dark Elves. So I know there has been a lot of controversy over changes that Wizards of the Coast has made to alignment and things like the Dark Elves. Um, you know, I don't know if how many some people who maybe are upset about it don't realize that basically what they said was that the Dark Elves of Menzoberranzan are still evil elves. That whole thing exists in Aloth and the Spider Queen and that whole matriarchal society. That they haven't touched that. But there's another sect of Dark Elves who escaped the cult of Loth and are not necessarily evil. They're not necessarily good either. They're just elves, and they could kind of be in anything. Well, Matt kind of did that himself in his world before all this happened. So we do have dark elves here. There is evil ones, but there's also ones that were not evil. That they started the Kryn dynasty. They I wouldn't say they're necessarily good, but they're not necessarily evil. They're not automatically evil. I kind of look at it like if you played World of Warcraft back in the day, how, traditionally the Horde was always seen as evil, but when you started playing, you realize that really they're just trying to survive. They were for the most part pretty honorable and good, and they were just misunderstood. They were at war with the humans and the Alliance, so there was this hatred between the two groups, but didn't necessarily mean the Horde was bad. They were good from their point of view, and I think that's kind of what has happened here. So the section here on Dark Elves I thought was a great example of how maybe the new type of Dark Elves can be portrayed in a different world, right? Again, they're only Wizards of the Coast is only touching Forgotten Realms anyway. So this was a neat example, though. So we talked about the Ashari. So I thought maybe it would be cool to show a couple of the stat blocks. We have some Ashari NPCs here. So we have our Fire Ashari and our Air Ashari. We have our Stone Ashari. So we do have kind of stat blocks for certain ones, which was kind of cool. Another neat section in here that you fans of Critical Role will like is, we've got Vox Machina. So what this is kind of goes over each of the characters from Vox Machina, and we've got NPC stat blocks for them, CR18 stat blocks. So this is pretty cool. So here is Grog. He was our barbarian. We've got Keyleth, our druid. And they all have portraits, right? We've got the Derolos. We have both Percival Derolo and Vexalia Derolo. We've got here's Percival's stat block, and we even have Trinket, the bear stat block. Then we have Vex's stat block, Vexalia. We have Pike Trickfoot, our cleric. Of course, we've got Scanlan Shorthalt. And I like to think that this picture, I'm sure it is if I haven't read everything, but I like to think this is the giant painting he had commissioned for himself to hang over the fireplace in Castle Grayskull. And then we have Tyrion Darrington, the namesake for Darrington Press, which is what the publishing company they publish these books under is now, with Dodie in the background. And then we've got Champions of the Ravens back here. So a little nod to the Raven Queen and Vex as the champion. Pretty cool overall. So like I said, I think it is a really solid book. I feel like they did a great job putting it together. I feel like there's a lot of really neat stuff in here. Fans of the show are going to love this book. People, like I said, aren't fans of the show. There's a lot of useful stuff in the book. So it's definitely worth taking a look at, because I think it's some very good inspiration for your own games. Things you can definitely pull out and use in your own games. So definitely take a look. So I'll put a link in the description below where you can pick it up, but it's at the Critical Role website, which is critroll.com. I think that's the only place I know where you can pick it up right now. I don't see it on Amazon or anything like that, but I'll take another look. Check it out. I thought it was a pretty cool book. I thought it was worth taking a look at because I know how many of you are Critical Role fans. I thought you'd enjoy a look at the new book. I saw a lot of people asking about, if I have the old one, should I get the new one? Is it worth it? Yeah, I definitely think it's worth it. So, yeah, take a look, guys. So that's it for today. I hope you like it. Let me know what you think. Are you a fan of Critical Role? And do you plan on picking up the Tal'dorei Reborn campaign book? Let me know down in the comments. All right, until next time, roll those dice.